Alright, here we go for another cave walkthrough. And we're doing the old tunnels at Scorched Earth. If you notice here, there's 7 loot crates. So feel free to try and get them all. I thought they'd all be easy to get. One I actually couldn't get, which we're going to see in this video. Now in the entrance here, to give you an idea when you're flying over, that's the red oboe in the background. You have that kind of unique sort of gap. As we can see, it's 58.8, 47.8, give or take. And almost dead center of the map itself. So we'll be heading into the cave here shortly. Talk about the gear once we get all our guns loaded up. So yeah, I didn't have all my guns preloaded, and as always we want the grappling hooks in the crossbow with a grappling hook loaded, shotgun fully loaded, sniper fully loaded, a rocket launcher loaded. My usual kit for a cave, pretty much standard issue with the exception of the rocket launcher. I bring that for the rock elementals, or on the off chance I catch one of those rock golems, I think they're called. Rubble golem. So as far as kit goes, pretty standard for me, as mentioned. Again, using ghillie suit. The only time I'm really not using the ghillie suit is when I'm running fur. The reason being, it gives you a major advantage when you're hidden away. Outside of that, a stack of grappling hooks, preserving salt, meat, quite a bit of sniper rounds. There is no water in this cave, so I brought quite a few canteens and my 3 sleeping bags, which I have yet to place. It turns out placing the sleeping bags is a no-go. I'm not sure why. Probably just a glitch. Hopefully you can get them placed, but as we can see, there's no ground or snap point. On my server, there is no building in caves. As it's a PvE server, we do kind of want the caves as hard as possible. So we've kind of left that with no building. It just, there's only so, well, actually I shouldn't say there's only so much to do in PvE, there's tons to do. But for me personally, the caves are definitely my favorite thing to do, besides maybe the bosses, but I actually enjoy the caves more. We're gonna have to go ahead and give up on the sleeping bags. That bug gets on my nerves, but this is funny, I actually laugh because I've not removed the sleeping bag, so I have to go put it back. Real noobish mistake here, and get rid of it. Otherwise we'll be running with that on our screen the entire time. I guess I'm not going over what I've got my XP loaded into, but essentially it's always fairly similar. Around 400 health, upwards and around 300 stamina. I got a little extra weight at 320, I believe, just because I need to carry an extra rocket launcher plus the rockets. Probably around 26 torpor, usually in the range of 122 speed, and that about covers it. This cave is wide open, fairly easy not to get lost in, and also a really nice cave to do with the sniper rifle because I've more or less got a big advantage over most of the creatures. In the bottom bar, as you can see, I'm carrying my sword, which I rarely use but is exceptionally good for backup, especially if you run into trouble in the water. I've also got my grappling hook and crossbow. That's a must for me on all caves with the exception of Aberration. Mastercraft shotgun, God roll sniper, obviously primitive rocket launcher. Back in the day you could have better ones. I don't think anymore you can get better than primitive. Stimulant, which is definitely a good thing to have in this cave. If not stim berries, that's mandatory. I in fact carry stimulant whenever I'm going near the swamp. If you're in PvP, you need stim berries or stimulant because people are always trying to knock you out. And the lesser antidote, fairly expensive product. You can definitely get away without it. You'll just have to be really careful with the oryxes. Medical brew is fairly cheap, and I don't leave home without it on almost any given mission. It's a big time lifesaver. I do get into some various trouble spots in this cave. As well, I've received a text message during the cave to go play a game with a friend of mine. So I kind of rushed it a little bit, but that's okay, we still get it done. Outside of that, let's talk about the dinosaurs a little bit here. As far as the dinos that you're definitely going to see inside, you got your spider. They say direwolf. I don't think I see one. Significant amount of mantis, onyx, scorpion. They say again on the wiki raptor. I doubt I see one. They say saber tooth. I don't see one. Titan boa, the Achatina, the Arthropluera. Megalania I don't remember. That's about the main ones you're going to see. Obviously the rocket launcher are quite a big advantage when dealing with that rock elemental there. Without it, the sniper just doesn't do enough damage. On the wiki again, and I always do post the link to the wiki, but it's not always up to date. On the wiki it says the cave requires you to crawl to be able to continue. I kept waiting on that to happen, and it just didn't happen. I never once had to crawl to get into the cave, so I don't know what that's about. If you do run into the rubber golem, better off to avoid it. It can be a bit of a headache, especially if you're just on foot. Phoenix is a recommended dino for this cave, but I would say cats, wolves, whatever you like. The Phoenix, I guess, is an advantage because it's a living torch, and the fireball attack can be used to light up the section ahead of you. I'm on Gamma 5 or 6, so the cave is very dark. Obviously with Gamma, though, I don't really need to light it up. But if you're really into the immersion factor, and you don't use Gamma, then definitely that Phoenix is going to be something you're going to want to have. As you already saw, with the gear, they say parachutes. I'm not a big parachute guy. Although it would help if you fell off. You'll see a little later on there's some very high parts. Problem there is when you fall off and go down with a parachute, you don't know what you're landing into. And a lot of times you could be landing into a position where you're going to get encircled. So I generally don't roll parachutes in caves. If you've got aberration in your cluster like we do, obviously a glider is another option. But again, being that I mostly roll caves alone without dinos, as always, and I mentioned it, I need to use a very cautious approach. I prefer the enemy ahead of me, and the last thing I want to have happen is to get encircled. This is in fact my very first time doing the cave. I've never done it before, but when I took a look at the map, I noticed it was very wide open. With the God mode, basically, God roll, I shouldn't say God mode, sniper rifle, and a decent shotgun, I was pretty confident that I wouldn't have too many problems. So I wasn't really worried about failing or getting a lot of practice in. However, if I had failed, I would have just simply done it again. But fortunately, we get through it okay. Pick up a couple loot boxes. As far as the loot crates go, I don't necessarily go show where each one is. And again, you can just take a look at the map by pausing at the beginning of the video, or just check it out on the wiki and find them. And not extremely hard to find. What was a challenge, we'll see later on, is actually getting to them. You do need the grappling hooks in most cases to get up there. And in one case, I grapple like crazy and burn through a lot of grapples and still don't get up there. As always, sound is pretty darn important. Without it, I would have a lot more problems. You'll see a little later on as well, there's a section that's got a lot of dirt flying around, and you really can't see anything. So I'm highly dependent on my headset. If you're on consoles or you're on PC and not using a headset, anytime in a cave, I would definitely recommend having that volume turned up. So we're moving along pretty good at this point. Not a whole lot of things to be worried about. And yeah, outside of that, really have a wide variety of dinos to bring. We're going to see when I go through the so-called, I believe it's what they considered the crawl section. But I really didn't have any problems crawling. I just didn't need to crawl. I'm pretty sure as a minimum, medium-sized dinos would get through there. The map coloring shows that the loot crates are red. I don't believe all of them are. Again, if you're depending on the wiki, you really got to take that information in with a grain of salt. Normally I do caves a little slower, but like I said, I was kind of under some pressure with my phone and wanting to play with a friend of mine, play a different game, but he was I thought at that time he was waiting on me, so I'm kind of running this cave as fast as I can, which when you're alone with just guns, there's still a limit on how fast you can go, but we will see that in some of the processes of rushing, I do put myself into a little bit of trouble. If you've watched any of my cave videos before, you've heard this countless times. At the same time, I'm going to repeat it. when you're doing a cave, especially if you're solo or really anytime, if you want to be successful, you're going to want to know your way back. If you're not sure where your retreat line is, then you can get yourself in some pretty serious trouble. As always, I stay very aware of my retreat line. When in deep trouble, I can always grapple up like you just saw there. So, it's something that you're definitely going to want to pay close attention to. Again, the wide open spaces for me are pretty great. It just makes it all the more easier. These orcs are in some cases where you're going to get a big headache. And I'm prioritizing headshots to do a lot of damage. But if you're not running one of those powerful snipers, what happens regardless of the ghillie suit, once you aggro the orcs, is all the ones in the vicinity come at you. And if you're not running a great sniper rifle like I am, either A, you're going to have to really get focused on your retreat line so that when they get too close to you, you can pull back and switch to your shotgun. Other great options are to bring a strong dino with you, and of course friends. When you consider the sniper rifle I'm using has either this one's 600 or 700 damage, what you can do is if you're 2 or 3 friends with medium level sniper rifles and you focus your fire course, you can still easily get the job done. And another option if you're solo is to get the dinosaur. Now here this is one of those supply drops I just can't seem to figure out, or I should say loot crate or loot drop. I can't figure out how to get it, and I'm burning through a lot of grappling hooks. Being that it's my first time doing the cave, that's pretty darn concerning because I don't know how many grappling hooks I'm going to need. So finally, based on just my conservative ways and an abundance of caution, I give up. I'm a little frustrated, so I fall, but of course the medical brews and whatnot don't make that a serious concern. Again, because it's my first time, I'm carrying an overstack of medical brews, but they're just so cheap to make. There is a bit of a grind, obviously, if you don't have the industrial cooker. But if not, they're fairly cheap. So I'm quite serious about cooking in this game, and I'll always have a fridge full of different brews for whatever the occasion is. And many of them are more expensive than others, but med brew is so inexpensive that for me it's just something I carry around. Being on Scorched Earth in a cluster, preserving salt's another thing I keep a lot of. I keep it in dinos, I'll keep it in a lot of various places so that my hard-earned brews last longer. So I'm guessing this is the space that they say you can't get through without crawling. So bear that in mind. As you can see, not a whole ton of dinos are going to get through there. But obviously you got your vultures, you got any other small dinos you like to use, and I'm just not sure about a cat or a wolf. Probably should have tested it, but my guess based on the look is you could just get that to follow you through. But if not, best to have some shoulder mounts. I like vultures, but a lot of people like dimorphs. Whichever you bring some with you just in case you can't get through there. I actually found this cave pretty cool with the design of the interior, as well as some of the murals on the wall. And here we've got some actual cadavers or mummified bodies up in these old tunnels here. Not the same as the dead frozen explorer type bodies you find in the snow cave on the island, but looks like those were placed there intentionally, whereas those poor explorers just died in the snow cave and froze to death. And we're getting kind of close to the artifact now. Again, this is a little faster than I'd like to go. I know my retreat line's pretty rock solid, so I'm just going to keep pushing it. Obviously, when you're hitting these, the crit hit is almost automatic every time. I'm assuming that's because they have thin skin. Again, though, you don't want to get hit by their acid venom there. It burns right through your armor very quickly. And in fact, by the time I get out of this cave, I think all I have left is my chest piece. Titan boas, Titana boas, for me are an old beef, so to speak. I remember spending 3 days, and I'm actually live. Not three obviously full days, but 3 heavy long shifts looking for a baryonyx. And I spent a lot of time in the swamp doing that, and those Titan boas more than once got the better of me, so I kind of have a deep resentment for them. And I, in fact, one day grinded like 4 hours worth of ammunition just so I could go into the swamp and kill everyone I saw. So always be aware of them. They tend to be in groups, and they also will knock you out to sleep, which is a terrible thing, of course. And as I've mentioned before, if you die and have sleeping bags, that's great. You might be able to get back to get your body, but you may have to do that without much weapons on you. If you have a full kit that you're carrying to go back to get your body, you're going to be too heavy and you're going to have to dump stuff. So it's not the greatest idea. You're better to try and make it through without dying. And then if you have to go back, bring something small like a sword or a shotgun to recover your body. You're going to have weight issues. Been down that road before, unfortunately. So here, I've got myself in a spot where I'm never a fan of going to a location that I haven't cleared first. In this case, we stay up on our grapple and get rid of some of the riffraff before landing. And that's a key factor when you're playing caves. Why I don't like the parachute or the glider is had I used one of those two items to get over here, I'd be landing in a potential mess. Now, most of it was already cleared out long range. Get a little stuck there. Most of it was already cleared out long range, but it still can be dangerous. On that note of getting stuck, I haven't carried a pick in the caves for quite a little bit, but it is a very good idea. Something like the snow cave on the island, or certain caves you actually do need it to clear rocks out of your way. But another reason why it's a really good idea to have is to clear dead bodies in some cases, to make sure your retreat line's good. It can be a real headache when you're trying to escape and you're hitting dead dinos, and it can slow you down pretty bad. If you have a spider web on you or the oryx is in chase, that can be a devastating issue. So always a good idea to have a pick on you when you're doing caves. I've just forgotten lately, and in this particular cave, when I took a quick look at the map, it was so wide open, I wasn't as deeply concerned as some of the issues like getting stuck. Here I'm reloading at kind of a bad time. Don't like that Titanobow at all, but make short work of it with a lucky crit hit there. I think that was a miss punch bringing up my shotgun. I don't think I heard any kind of elementals or anything like that. And as we work our way down, we're getting quite close to the artifact now, which will also have a skin. I believe it's the sword skin in it. The last cave, of course, was the torch skin. And quite a few dinos in here, so you can imagine it obviously looks a little easier when I'm doing it. One, based on experience, but another big reason is that sniper rifle is devastating. Now, if you don't have that, you're going to need to be quite cautious. If you're in a team, you're going to need to work as a team. That's something I've talked about in caves a lot before, these dinos that are stuck in the walls and don't necessarily come out at you till the worst possible time. And if in that case I'd have had a spider web on me, or was in a big battle and all of a sudden I got oryxes coming out, I'm going to have some problems. So obviously works out, but it's something you always got to be aware of. If you hear something, look around, check those walls, and make sure there's nothing stuck in the wall. In the last cave you saw that I had a rock elemental stuck in a wall on a ceiling, and it didn't come out, but it could have. So that's always something you got to watch for. It sounds like we got something nasty just down there. Here's where you run into some serious visibility issues. There he is there now. This is where things go south almost devastatingly quick. I know that's a epic risk to try and shoot this guy, but I really want to do it. And the backdraft or whatever gets me. This guy comes out of nowhere, and this is just a straight rush factor. Normally there's always some creatures waiting around the artifact, and here you've seen I've gone towards the artifact to get a better line of sight at that rock elemental, and out comes a scorpion. Now my problem, which is pretty serious, is that I've been poisoned and might fall asleep, and I cannot drink my stimulant while I'm on the grappling hook. So I need to get down into enemy territory, pound back some stimulant, maybe get some medical brew, heal, kill this guy. Doesn't seem like it because I'm talking now, but at this point I felt quite a bit of pressure and was a little bit concerned about the situation. And as you can see, even with the 6 stimulants I ate, my stars are still lighting up a little bit. So I wait here for a minute, just make sure you see again, it went all the way to the bottom of something I've talked about before, and now it's climbing back up. And I made that mistake in my earlier days where I get my torpor or the knockout poison all the way down and think everything's okay and go about my business, and it starts coming back up. So you've really got to, when you've been poisoned, you see how it's just relentlessly coming back up. So when you've been poisoned, you really got to keep an eye on that and make sure that you're back in healthy shape before continuing, which I did. I have to give up on that rock elemental because it's just, I mean, I'm low on armor, a little bit worried about what could go wrong continuing to try and shoot it. But we're going to get another opportunity to him. We go downstairs to snoop around. Well, here visibility is really scrappy, and as we're going to go snoop around a little bit down low, and it becomes a bigger issue. So it looks pretty clear, as I always recommend. Make sure that you're checking out this area thoroughly before accessing the inventory. Seems obvious, I know, but the point to these walkthroughs is to try and cover everything that could go wrong, so you have a slightly less frustrating experience your first time around. So as I'm kind of in a hurry to get through the cave, I decide I'm going to kind of get out of here, and I think I'm clearing my rear guard, make sure I'm safe, that nothing's respawned. I believe I decide in the end that I want to go kind of explore down low a little bit. I see that red loot crate there, so I think, well, rush or no rush, I'd like to go see what that's all about. And being that I have significant amounts of ammunition left, almost everything I need, like I could start the cave fresh with what I have. There's no worry for me to go down there. As far as loot crates and caves go, yes, they are pretty great. But on Scorched Earth, you're literally probably better to work the desert drops. There's a lot of other places to get good loot. So as far as me getting resources from caves go, not so often, as I'm in the deep lake game at this point. If you've watched, there's cases where I had to go get some dung beetles in the very early game on the island, and I'm in a cave. Well, I actually do farm resources while I'm in there, and as well get all the loot crates because it's early game and I just don't have a lot of stuff. But at this point, I'm in pretty good shape, so I'm not as worried about, you know, necessarily risking the artifact or other problems for a loot crate. I'm getting in a little bit of trouble right here. I've taken significant amounts of damage. Most of my armor's been destroyed, so I'm also running pretty hot, which will increase my water and food consumption. Of course, the medical brews come through. I have more than enough canteens to get the job done, so I'm not too worried about it. But that's why bringing extra is a good idea, because you just never know when things could, you know, get bad for you. And the visibility is just so bad in here. It almost looks better when I'm watching this video right now, but at this time I really didn't feel comfortable with where I was. And I have to dig deep into the corners to make sure I'm safe. This, I would qualify this as a mistake. I should have gone a little further ahead before accessing this and checked to make sure there was nothing in front of me here, and I didn't, and that could have been fatal. So I got pretty lucky. On to the topic of spiderwebs, they don't really do a horrendous amount of damage. As long as you stay calm, cool, and collected, once you're webbed, you should be okay. However, if there were oryxes there, I could have a lot of problems, or any other creatures, so you really want to stay focused on firing. I've also been poisoned here, so I take a bit more stim, and it was just a light poisoning, it's not too bad. I believe that's a rock elemental that's lighting up the joint again. Now I'm just kind of trying to be sure, and sort of thinking about a fast way out of here. Don't really feel like walking all the way up, so count on our trusty grappling hook to give us a little bit of a free ride. We do a quick little Tomb Raider maneuvers. Get our way out. At this point, I'm starting to feel obliged to go meet up with my friend, so I'm kind of looking to get the heck out of this cave as soon as possible. Unfortunately, though, actually not sure if they're just dinos that I missed earlier on or what, but I end up having to fight my way out quite a bit as I make my way along. That was a risky jump, but not a lot of other options. And that's where speed and weight can be helpful. If I was too heavy right now or too slow, that jump would have been all the more difficult. Depending on how much health you have, it could be a fatal fall. And for some people, if you're really worried about it, it's a good idea to bring parachutes just for that case. Another thing, because I've noticed it from some doing caves with some of the newer players on my server, it might again seem obvious, but if you're in a cave with a dino and you fall off a cliff, just make sure that you get off the dino before you hit the ground, and that way the dino won't take fall damage. I've sadly seen a friend of mine lose a really great dino they had bred, and so on and so forth, simply because they didn't know about that. So if you're in here with a cat or a wolf and you fall off one of those edges, if you have to, jump off that dino, open your parachute, and the dino will be fine when it lands on the ground. Just make sure you're aware of that. That applies to outside the caves as well. I know most of you know that, but there's probably a couple people that don't. So dinos don't take fall damage unless you're sitting on them. Be advised. And we're on a quick path out of here. I don't remember at what point I end up in a battle, but I know I end up in a battle getting out, which will be coming up pretty shortly as we approach the exit. Well, there we go. Significant amount of dinos, and I thought I passed this way on my way in, so I was a little surprised to see them all. Double check the food and water before we get into it, and then it'll be a little more murder time. Won't really be a big problem. What I found at the Scorched Earth Cave is not a whole ton of oryxes. And if you watch my island cave, especially the lava cave, I'm under, even with a great sniper, I'm under a significant amount of more pressure because of 5 or 6 oryxes coming at the same time. And a lot of times I don't get them all before they make it. And I've got to switch to my shotgun, and I'll get the super rabies, which the oryxes give you if you get too involved with them. The big threat is those mantis. They jump so fast, so it's a bit of a problem. And the super rabies is also a problem. You can beat it with med brew, but the antidote, lesser antidote, is a much bigger help, but it is expensive. It's a grind to make, so you're probably going to spend less time doing the med brews and then just spam them until the timer runs out on the super rabies. And the timer is long, but if you pace out the med brews and eat your food and just don't fight for a bit, you can usually get through it. Bear in mind that the super rabies is contagious, so it's not the best idea to go run to your tribe mates when you have it. Just when I thought I might be able to get out of here, here comes my friend the rock elemental. Even with rockets, he takes a bit of a beating. Bear in mind that the rocket launcher isn't very good on durability, so I do always bring 2 of them. And there's the rubble golem, supposedly a massive threat. Only a level 5 though, and even the primitive rocket launcher made pretty short work of it. Had it been a 150, if that's even possible, I don't know how high they go. And that would have been a longer fight, but still manageable. I believe at this point my phone is texted again, so I'm really trying to get out of here. And, of course, whenever you really want something in this game, expect the unexpected, and just relentless attacks from various dinos on a path that I thought I had already cleared. And if that's the case, then that tells you that the dinos do respawn in pretty quickly in this cave. I found in my cave experiences, dino respawns vary from cave to cave. If those are dinos that weren't there or that I killed on my way through, that tells you that they do spawn in fairly quickly. Now, it is possible I took a different route in and just didn't see them as well, which is almost more likely. I'm not sure. You might know better having watched the video as I go in. But either way, they're dead now. No problems to speak of at this point as I approach the sortie or the exit. And all in all, for me, was a super fun cave. Can't really tell because I'm doing voiceover after while watching the video. But I did get under some levels of pressure there a couple times. I also was a little bit more nervous than usual on account of having only done this cave the first time. So that's about the end of that one, guys. There's a little raptor out here that caused me a lot of problems. And actually, on the topic of raptors, I find running backwards and spamming or swinging your sword is the best way to go. So thanks for watching, y'all. Have a great day, and hope you enjoyed the video.